Alright, so let's start with the Necro. Get it out of the way first. General Necro build is going to be Dagger Warhorn with offhand focus on swap. Obviously, it's going to be Berserker and Scholar. You can tell that I haven't done much with this character because it still has Ruby Orbs instead of Scholar Runes. So ignore those Ruby Orbs, pretend they were Scholar Runes, and imagine that these are Ascended items, but I'm not putting any money into my Necro until they get a big buff. So for my Necro, I have Sigil of Night on the Dagger, Force on the Warhorn, and Force on the Focus. Yeah, and that's basically it for the gear. The traits, we're going to go 30, 25, 0, 0, 15. This is pretty much the standard Necro build. Spiteful Talisman reduces the recharge on focus skills and increases their range. The focus skills are kind of underwhelming. Reaper's Touch is a decent Vuln skill. If there's multiple targets, it'll bounce around, which is pretty strong, and can inflict a pretty decent amount of Vuln. So, actually, using Spiteful Talisman is pretty nice for getting the extra Vuln out there more often. Spinal Shivers, your target has to have a significant amount of boons for it to be a big hit. If you are fighting a guy that has a lot of boons in PvE, which I don't even know what that would be, Spinal Shivers is good, maybe like the Inquest Golem, something like that. But for the most part, Focus is just a bit better. I'm sorry, Warhorn is just a bit better because you have Whale of Doom, which is a interrupt, and Locust Swarm, which does damage over time in AoE. And AoE is going to be what the Necro's lacking the most, so it's kind of helpful. Next, fuck that. Death into Life is terrible. Chill of Death. I went with Chill of Death here, because it's a free damage. When your target gets to below 50% health, you're going to get a free big hit. If he has 3 boons, it will hit for base damage of 778, and it will inflict chill, decent amount of chill. As you'll see, it is a it's not like a huge amount of damage, but it's just free damage, and the Necro needs all the help it can get in the free damage department. And then Close to Death. It is a 20% damage modifier while your health, or the health of your target, is below 50%. That works out to be over time about a 9% DPS boost, which, I mean, on a class like a Thief, Executioner, which is basically the same trait, is really good. On a Necro, it's pretty much the best you got, which isn't saying much. So next, we have Barb Precision, crit on bleed on crit. It's kind of a yawner, but you do have a very actually high attack speed with your dagger, and with all the locusts hitting from Locust Swarm. So the bleeds actually will stack up. You can actually stack up a pretty decent amount of bleeds. Reaper's Precision, chance to gain life force on crit. I'm not a huge fan of this trait, but there's really not much better. I really don't know what your other options are. Focused Rituals, I guess. I don't know. I only use 1 or 2 wells at a time. I don't know. I think it's not great. Enfeeble used to be super good. The Weakening Shroud used to be an all-star trait for the Necro, but they nerfed the weakness from like 12 seconds to 2 seconds. It used to be that you would use this trait when you were at the Dredge Fractal and when at the Clown Car, and when all the Dredge would come around the car, you would just quickly go into Death Shroud, give them all weakness, and your team would have 100% weakness uptime for a while. Then they nerfed this, and now it's kind of pretty bad. So Weakening Shroud isn't so good. Chilling Darkness, blinds also apply chill, is useless. Bleed duration is pretty useless, and Toxic Landing, don't even get me started, that's terrible. So Reaper's Precision is pretty much the best of a bunch of bad choices. Fury when entering Death Shroud, not super big. At the beginning of a fight, if your team doesn't have great Fury uptime, you can just flash your Death Shroud for the Fury. It's 5 seconds. Not the greatest trait in the world. Like, this is one of these Necro traits that, honestly, they could buff to make this good and make Necros good. Make this like 15 seconds. Why not? Why not make it 15 seconds? And then why not make it apply to your whole party? So let's assume this lasted 15 seconds and it applied to the whole party. You could start off every fight when everyone's stacking might, and bam, you'd get 15 seconds for the whole party. It would be a good trait. Banshee's Wail reduces the Warhorn duration and increases duration, reduces the cooldown. It's what makes Locust Swarm usable. Target the weak, increase damage for every condition. Most bosses are going to have between 5 and 8 conditions, so target the weak is pretty good buff. Down in Soul Reaping, blah blah blah. These traits do nothing. This is a common problem for the Necro. Reduces death recharge on Death Shroud skills, I kind of like. Some of them, like Life Transfer, when you're fighting a lot of targets, Necros don't have much cleave, so Life Transfer isn't the worst thing in the world. So just recharging that's fine. And I think that the other skills are a DPS boost as well. Go into those briefly. But I'm pretty sure Dark Path and yeah, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Spodge would know better than me. He's sort of the Necro expert on the forums, but I'm pretty sure Dark Path is actually a DPS increase. As far as utility skills, Blood is Power is kind of like the default, but it kind of sucks. I mean, 12 seconds of might on a 30-second cooldown is terrible. When I'm in open world, running around or whatever, I'll just use Signet of Locust for the movement speed. When you're in a dungeon, you can just pick a second well. Usually you want to go with the one that converts conditions into boons. These two don't really change. Well of Suffering's good because it does decent damage and inflicts vuln stacks. And Plague Signet is 180. Wait, that's not the right one. Where's go? Signet of Spite. That is the one that you want to use. There we go. That is going to be a pretty big DPS boost for you to get the 180 power. Okay. And then for the elite, a lot of people use Flesh Golem or Lich Form. Lich Form's pretty good. But I find that the DPS, at least in PvE anyway, of your dagger auto attack is better than Lich Form. And so Plague I will use situationally when I know that I need the AoE blinds. You can really shut down trash mobs for a while with the AoE blinds. It's decent. It's better than what most people have as far as blind capability, but it's on a long cooldown, so it's not even as useful as a thief. So overall, Necros are pretty shit in PvE, and there's not much you can do with them. There's another build that only goes 25. Wait, yeah, I think it goes 25 in. Dude, I don't even know. I think it actually maybe it only goes 20 in Spite, and then it goes 25 in Strength of Undeath. I don't know, man. Necros are a mess. There's really nothing good you can do with them, and I'd rather just move on. Does anyone have any Necro questions before we go on? I doubt it. So that is about all I have to say about Necro.